Welcome to Cactus Theaters. Here are your headline news for Tuesday, June 6, 1944. This is D-Day. The greatest continuing news story in the history of man has begun and will continue until victory. Americans and all the people of the earth now eagerly await every new development, watch every Allied move, and Nazi countermove. General Dwight D. Eisenhower's headquarters announced today that Allied troops began landing on the northern coast of France this morning, strongly supported by naval and air forces. The Germans said the landings extended between Le Havre and Cherbourg along the south side of the Bay of the Seine and along the northern Normandy coast. Berlin reported that parachute troops descended in Normandy and were being engaged by German shock troops. A second announcement from Schaeff confirmed that General B.L. Montgomery is in command of the Army group carrying out the assault, which includes British, Canadian, and United States forces. Allied naval forces, including heavy warships, were reported to be shelling Le Havre in a terrific bombardment. Eisenhower's order of the day, in a special order issued to all soldiers, sailors, and airmen, General Eisenhower stated, "We will accept nothing except full victory." He told his men they are embarking on a great crusade towards which we have striven these many months and warned them they face a tough, well-prepared enemy. Now enjoy our feature presentation. Meet me in St. Louis. Attention! Welcome to Amblin' Through Cinema Company, Doughboys. We are a podcast dedicated to exploring the stories and film craft, defining the creative giants of the silver screen. Today, we're enjoying the explosive and brutal experience of Steven Spielberg's Saving Private Ryan, released in 1998. I'm your host, Lieutenant Tyler Birch.
Aye, sir. Crystal, reporting for duty.
All right, men. So today we're going to be talking about Saving Private Ryan, the fourth attempt that Spielberg had at a World War II movie. So if you're not familiar with Saving Private Ryan, Tom Hanks, war, Normandy, trying to find Matt Damon.
Lots of stuff happens along the way. Lots of people die.
So we've gone from the attempted comedy of 1941 to the high-flying Empire of the Sun from the British China occupied side to the heart-wrenching black and white adventure that was Schindler's List. And now here we are in a literal war zone with Saving Private Ryan. So let's go ahead and we're going to do our first impressions. So Mom, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit more about your first time seeing Saving Private Ryan and just kind of your feelings in general about it.
Okay, so this one I did not see in the theater. I imagine Larry wouldn't go see it because obviously it's pretty gory.
I feel like if you get him past the Normandy part, you might be okay, but
Yeah.
There's no way once you come in there and bodies be flying.
I think I watched this without him on cable back when we had cable in probably 2000. The first 25 minutes, oh my God.
And grips you.
Yes, you're like there.
And then you're coming down from the adrenaline shock like the whole rest of the time, practically.
Yeah, it was an amazing movie. I got to be honest, I hadn't watched it again until we watched it for the podcast. It's not one that I'm going to seek out, so I really appreciate the theme of it and everything. It's just such a masterpiece that you get it out on special occasions like your fine china.
I don't know what those occasions would be. I'm trying to think of what that would be.
I don't know, Christmas or...
Christmas? I don't know about Christmas. Maybe Veterans Day?
Veterans Day.
Yeah, you could do it for Veterans Day.
Armed Forces Day. That was a big deal on Hawthorne. Armed Forces Day.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So what about you?
So this was my first time seeing it. Definitely an incredible movie. I know this is one of the ones that when we started this journey, you were most looking forward to us watching together. I always get worried about those expectations. It's not going to live up to what we're imagining. This one I was very surprised about. Well, I guess I shouldn't be that surprised at Spielberg and Tom Hanks. You can't really go wrong with that combo.
They're BFFs.
They are. This is the Hanks era. But no, I think they did a great job. I love Tom Hanks in this. I really liked actually everybody in it. And it was really weird because they're all young men. And most of these people that I have met were not young men when I met them. I want to say almost every single one of them except for Vin Diesel. I've watched other war films. I'm not a big war movie buff. Yeah, no, I think it was incredible. Bookends beautifully with the visit to the cemetery and just the themes that they were going through and what each character was. I love the camaraderie in this movie.
Yes.
The dialogue feels so natural
because
these are all just young men. Yeah, they're going to be, making fun of each other, but also they care about each other. It's not always about right versus wrong. It's about protecting your buddy that's in the foxhole next to you.
Right.
This movie really channeled that. And I think that's why it was so successful. It wasn't just Allies versus Nazis. It was just about this one squad that was down in the dirt, what they were doing to survive and the losses they took and just feeling all those emotions.
I agree with that. It didn't have your typical, when I get back home, I'm going to have a hot dog from Yankee Stadium.
I'm going to go propose to my girlfriend.
Exactly. And then next thing you know, they're gone.
You're right. There weren't the death flags like there are in a lot of other media. There's somebody that was there and they all of a sudden gave us all this backstory into the life. And I was just like, oh no, before the big battle? Dude, no. Come on, man.
Reverend Sniper.
Dude, he was awesome.
I know.
I really liked how they incorporated his religion into what he does. Like, he's not preaching to other people.
No.
But to him, he wants to be absolved for the sin of using the sniper rifle, so he repeats those passages. I love quiet moments like that. That's what really feels like legitimate world building.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked how they had just that nuance on there. Ironically, it's not Private Ryan that this movie's about. I would even say it's not totally about Miller. I would say it's about Upham.
Think so?
I think his journey of morality through this movie is what really gives it to life. Miller does a great job. Maybe it's like 50-50.
I did read that it does shift to Upham. I mean, maybe, like you said, 50-50.
The whole back half of this movie, maybe starting with the German soldier, Steamboat Willie.
Yeah.
That's when it becomes Upham's journey. So Upham is that surrogate for the audience.
I really wish it wasn't Upham. We've spoken about this even off mic. You don't know how you would react in these situations. I know a lot of people see him as a coward, because he froze. That's one of the things for fight, flight, freeze, and I think fawn.
Back in my day, it was just fight or flight.
Fight or flight. Now we're expanding our horizons. So yeah, I kind of wish Carp had survived. I would have loved to have gone through his perspective.
I think it would have been really interesting to see him survive after saving the girl and see if maybe that starts to influence his own morality.
Yeah, maybe.
Because he almost died trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
Does that mean that doing the right thing was the wrong thing? And just kind of that intricacies. But Vin Diesel had to go do Fast and Furious. So
Family. Captain reminds me of my niece. I gotta save her.
That's how he got the job.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're right.
They said, we need somebody that really cares about family. Well, there's this guy that's there for 10 minutes and all he talks about is family.
And he steals the apples.
I'm in. Yes, he does steal an apple.
He was just munching on apples while they were getting ready to attack. Oh, I loved it.
So now that we've talked about our first impressions, let's go ahead and jump into the magic of film with Mr. DNA, our favorite cinematic helix.
What, he's back?
Well, yeah, we only give him 4 vacation days a year.
Okay, he was gone for more than 4.
He uses them strategically.
I've seen that on Facebook. How to make the most of your PTO. Good for you. At least I got a postcard. Did you get anything from this trip?
No, he never does.
Well, welcome back, Mr. DNA.
Mr. DNA is already in town, so let's go ahead and hop into it. There is magic in Saving Private Ryan. The magic of a real story driving the film, which makes this a history lesson disguised as an incredible movie. In 1942, the 5 Sullivan brothers all served on the same ship, the USS Juneau. Shout out to Alaska. When it sank, all 5 brothers died. This tragedy changed the military's genetic code forever. The War Department created Directive 1315.15, the sole survivor policy. Now the Ryans are fictional, but the Nylans were real. They experienced heartbreak. Brother Edward went missing in Burma. Brother Robert died on D-Day, and Brother Preston died 1 day later at Omaha Beach. When the Army realized Fritz was the only Nylan left, they didn't send Tom Hanks and a squad of 8 to rescue him. They sent a chaplain named Francis Sampson. He tracked Fritz down and told him, "Son, you're going home." But wait, there's more. Here's the best part. Edward, the brother missing in Burma, he wasn't dead. He was found in a POW camp and made it home alive. The Nyland family legacy preserved. And bingo, cinema DNA.
Thank you, Mr. DNA. We're really happy you're back.
All right, so first up, we're going to do our characters. Only one person really to go for on this one. It's going to be Captain John H. Miller, played by Tom Hanks.
Yes, he's the captain now.
He is the captain now. So Tom Hanks, school teacher.
School teacher, teaches English composition.
Teaches English composition.
Watches his wife in the rose bushes, pruning them. That's the one image that carries him through this whole ordeal.
So he is the person that's in charge of the squad. He's the one that everybody looks up to. He is the Papa Bear.
He is the Papa Bear.
Make sure all these baby bears get home. Throughout the course of this movie, we realize something scary. Papa's human.
What?
Yeah.
No.
I know.
Who gets to pull on that one?
Who gets to pull on that one?
Yeah.
That he's human? Well, my money was on Terminator, so I'm out.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Although Tom Hanks' I'll be back would have been pretty cool.
It would have been cool.
Yeah. But yeah, so we're going to be talking about John Miller, somebody that is struggling throughout to really just survive, I would say.
Oh, yeah, especially the first 25 minutes.
Yes, 25 minutes. Obviously, beginning is Normandy. Everybody around him is dying. Everybody is dying. Even people he's trying to save are dying. And he's just trying to make it through, trying to keep some sort of semblance of command time where I feel like nothing would be going right and nobody would be listening to anybody.
No, definitely. Especially with that scene with the radio operator. He keeps telling him, okay, we lost this many people.
Talking about Dog One, is that what it was?
I think so, yeah.
Dog
Dog
One.
One was that.
The main drag that they were trying to take.
The main drag. Then he's trying to give him some more information and, well, he's gone now.
That guy that he saved and he's saying thank you, and then he gets shot.
Yes.
Yeah, the first 25 minutes is obviously heartbreaking
Whew.
to portray what Normandy is like. When we first see him in the boat, His hands are shaking. You think it's because of nervousness, fear, adrenaline. Who knows what's going on through it in his body right in that moment as they try to get closer and closer to the beach to storm Normandy. Turns out his shaking hands are not just because of Normandy, it's because of his experiences in the war. That feeling of being overwhelmed, that feeling of just trying to get through the day, it's taking a physical toll on him.
Well, I mean, he's a school teacher. In the 40s, I don't imagine we were having all the drama we have today.
Do you think that this character inspired Noah Wile's character in Falling Skies?
Probably. Shout out to teachers, of course. They're essential. But yeah, I can't imagine being a teacher and going into battle like
Right.
that. Oh
And
my goodness.
being told you're in charge now.
Right. It doesn't have anything to do with your job, because if you went in as an officer, say you were a doctor or whatever, then you would be in the medics. Where do you put a teacher?
Right at the front.
Yeah, as a leader.
I remember the reserves and everybody were trying to recruit me when I was in college. And they always said, if you have your degree, you get jumped up to ranks. I always just imagined how terrifying that would be. Obviously, we're not in war, so we wouldn't be thrown onto the front lines like that. But I couldn't imagine just, okay, well, you have this amount of education. You're in charge now. Go ahead. Well, what do I do? And you have all these young men. This is their first time out in life.
I know.
And they're relying on you.
They're
And
babies.
can't imagine what that would be like. It would be terrifying, and everybody's just looking at you, and he has to shoulder that on. Probably made a mistake going up that hill,
Yeah, he did.
resulting in Irwin Wade dying and that death being on him. And I remember when he went up that hill, I won't say it was the wrong decision. It was the wrong decision for his squad because
Yeah.
somebody died, obviously. But he had a really good point. Even if we can get past this, what about the next people? It reminds me of when you cross a river. You can cross a river on your own. You can swim across just fine. Then what about the next person? What are they going to do?
Right. It was selfless, which is a quality most teachers have. They were his students, basically, even though he wasn't. Well, I guess he was teaching them stuff, life lessons along the way.
That's probably why he got along better with Upham, too. He's the journalist, kind of like on that same scholarly level versus the rest of the squad, who are obviously people who had just graduated high school and they didn't have those soft skills that
Right.
Upham did. So that might be why they were able to connect so quickly.
Yeah, and maybe he saw himself in Upham. Upham hadn't been in any battle yet.
No, he was only chosen as translator. And the only reason why he let Steamboat Willie go is because Upham said this is the right thing to do. And he reminded him, all the rest of the squad who had gone through all these trials and have experienced the horrors of war, they obviously were, murder hobos and just wanted to kill everything, understandably, after going through everything that they probably have gone through. But like Upham is the one that said, well, no, regulations, blah, blah, blah. Reminded him, no, we do let people go.
Yeah. Yeah, because we talked about, well, they don't have a choice. They can't take a prisoner of war. What are they going to do with them? I guess they didn't know who was coming up behind him. They didn't have very good communication, obviously. But just to let him go, he got picked up and thrown back to the front line. So
Exactly like what the rest of the squad said would happen.
pretty much.
That final battle would not have gone as well if it hadn't been for him and his squad helping out. They probably would have lost that bridge.
Oh, definitely.
Before the Cadillac of the Sky showed up. He took command of that area, made it as defensible as possible. I wouldn't say it was very defensible, but he at least made the best that
Of
he
what
could.
they had. I mean, they didn't have much. I think he did a great job.
And even his death.
Earn this.
Earn this is
Ugh.
a pretty great line to go out on.
Yeah, I know.
I like it because it's so dire. He thought he had to get up there on that bridge and defend it, and he ended up getting shot. And the futility of it is that 10 minutes later, maybe not even 10 minutes later, Allied forces showed up, saved the day, and so he could have survived. I appreciate the futility of it. That's war. That's how it goes sometimes.
He made us care about him.
They did make us care about him. And
Yes.
Ryan care about him to the point where it leads into the end where he talked to his gravestone. Yeah, I think that he did a fantastic job with this character. There's a lot of characters in this movie
Yeah.
that you're trying to keep track of. Anytime that Tom Hanks is on screen, you're paying attention to what he's doing. A, because of Tom Hanks, but also it's just he did such a good job with
He
this
was the
one. And
captain.
yeah. This was post Forrest Gump,
Yeah. It's post Forrest Gump,
post Toy Story.
post Big. He's got a few things under his belt.
So yeah, next we can talk about Private James Francis Ryan, played by Matt Damon.
The whole time the squad is saying, why are we doing this?
He's probably dead.
It's one guy, which is fair, but you got to follow orders.
I think saving this one guy would make John Miller feel like that he was saving everybody because he lost so many people on Normandy. He's losing a lot of people on this journey.
That's true. He had to put together, I don't want to say ragtag, but you, okay, come on. We don't know much about him. I remember you asking me, when are they finding this guy? We don't find him until what? There's an hour left of the movie or 45 minutes, which is another reason why we say this movie is not about him.
It's really not.
No.
I mean, it's really about this squad. He's obviously in the bookends. He's the one that they said, you're going to be coming with us. We've completed our mission. They're all happy. And he says, I'm not leaving my group. We need to defend this bridge. And so they make the decision to also defend the bridge.
Which is kind of disobeying a direct order. had Private Ryan died, oh, yeah, I had him, but had to defend this bridge, so we lost him.
And if he had died, they would have died.
Oh, okay. You go, we go.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot about him. Matt Damon just is there.
Honestly, as a character, I didn't connect with him.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Not the biggest Matt Damon fan. He's cool as Bourne because it's Bourne, but not because of his portrayal. And that's pretty much how I felt about all the things I've seen Matt Damon in. Now, I have not seen Good Will Hunting. So obviously the biggest one that everybody talks about, I have not seen about his portrayal, I've not seen. So everything else I've seen him in, he's just kind of there, kind of a wooden block. And that's what you get from this. Then we have Sergeant Mike Horvath, who does exactly what a military man would do, which is always have the back of his captain, to the point where he pulls the gun on the other squad members when they try to go AWOL. It doesn't matter if it's the wrong orders. He will obey the orders of the person that's above him.
Yeah, what'd you call him?
That he's his ride or die.
Yeah, Miller's ride or die.
He's Miller's ride or die, which is, I mean, it's true. He would have backed up any play that John Miller had.
Didn't he go up with him on the hill? I mean...
Yeah, I think he was the one person that was there with him. So once you go through something like that, we'll do whatever. We'll get into the squad a little bit. Private Richard Riven, who is from Brooklyn, as you see on his jacket. He is probably the biggest realist on this team. He's willing to go AWOL because he doesn't want to get killed.
Yeah, he was the first one, wasn't he?
He was basically out the door until Tom Hanks gave his little speech and he said, all right, I'll go and do this, whatever. That's the thing that I like about this too. He was arrogant. He was young, willing to disobey orders if it means saving his life. But at the end of the day, he was also protecting Ryan. He was still following on his duty. And I think that's what I really appreciate about him is that his attitude needs some work. But at the end of the day, he still follows the orders he's given and he's still going to try to help out the man that's next to him as much as possible. That's also the reason why he tried to go AWOL. It wasn't because of his death. It was because Giovanni Ribisi, the medic, died. Next, we have Private Daniel Jackson, played by Barry Pepper. I only knew him from the Maze Runner series 20 years later with a mustache, so he looked very different to me in this one.
Yeah, very young, right?
Yes, it took a really long time for me to connect who that was until I saw the name. But we've talked about him. He's a religious sniper. I liked his character a lot. Unfortunately, another casualty, but I really liked what his performance was. It wasn't in your face about the religion. He was just whispering it to himself to give him the strength that he needed to be able to snipe. Next, we have Private Stanley Fish Mellish. He is Jewish.
Germans were walking by?
Yes, and he was showing them...
the Star of David, yeah.
And I think saying the German word for Jew...
Juden or something?
Yeah, Juden.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's rubbing it in their faces. So clearly a lot of his attitude has been influenced by what he's seen in this war and what's happening to people just like him. Just adding that little extra context helps a lot because he is, other than that, just a dick. But he completed the mission as long as he could. He had that knife fight at the end. That was a desperate struggle.
Was he the one that got stabbed in the throat?
Was it in the throat? Where the German was on top of him and the knife slowly goes into his body, which is always such a really intense way to kill somebody.
Oh, I think that was the other guy.
No. It was the guy with him. That was the guy that got shot in the throat. That was the commander of the bridge.
He got done Dexter style.
As he's trying desperately to stop it. And we watch Upham not go upstairs and save him. And then that German is the one that lets Upham go, remember?
Yes.
He's like, oh no, I'm not a combatant. And he lets him go. But he killed Fish. I think that was probably, out of everybody that died, other than like Captain Miller, obviously, I think this is the most devastating death in the bridge area.
Yeah.
It's the one that stuck with me the most.
Because they had just connected him and Upham because of FUBAR.
Yes, because FUBAR, which they kept saying throughout the movie, and he kept wondering what it was. Didn't they say it was like a German word?
Yeah, he looked it up in his little German dictionary, and he's like, I don't see it. I know they were not pranking him, but it was nice when he finally figured it out. And Fish was there, and I don't know, they had a moment.
Makes it more tragic that Upham froze and didn't do anything to help him, because he could have gone up there and easily have saved Fish. We have Private Adrian Carpazzo, Carp.
Yeah, we're like, there's Fish and Carp.
Played by Vin Diesel. We've talked about him a little bit. He steals apples. He tries to save nieces. Unfortunately, a German sniper gets him. That scene was really stressful because he could have been saved. If they could have taken care of the sniper quick enough, he pretty much just is on the ground bleeding out that whole time.
Holding his letter.
Yeah, trying a letter to his dad that he's trying to give to Fish to deliver to him.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I don't think that letter ever got delivered.
Upham probably survived.
Could have delivered it.
That was the thing to do. I don't know if it was in the 40s or if it was more recent wars. You usually trade your letters with a buddy. So in case you get, that buddy will deliver it or send it or whatever. So I was surprised that he had it himself. Maybe they were just newly formed. He was pretty, I don't want to say arrogant. He was confident, very confident.
I mean, they made it through quite a while to make it to 1944. When you're young, you think you're invincible.
Of course.
It could happen to other people, but it won't happen to me kind of thing. But yeah, he had the smallest amount of screen time. still made quite an impact. And then there's the T4 medic, Erwin Wade, played by Giovanni Ribisi, who you've probably seen in things like Friends, the Ted movie, Avatar. Nothing I've seen him in was a serious role.
You know what? On the beach, he kind of took command. I saw him trying to get to everybody. I mean, obviously, it was trying to put a Band-Aid on a stab wound. I don't know how he did it, but did what he could for the group. We appreciate it, and I really loved when he was dying. They got all the sulfur, trying to stop the bleeding, and
I like how they said, you have to tell us how to save you.
because we don't know what to do, but they probably didn't have time to teach them that in boot camp. Now they teach you self-aid and buddy care, I think they call it.
I think the thing we'll always remember was him shouting for his mom when he was dying.
Yeah, a lot of people on the beach also did that, so that hurts.
And then finally, we have the newbie, which is Corporal Timothy E. Upham, part of the media drafted because he knows how to speak German, so he's a translator.
Yeah.
So he comes along. He's the morality of this movie. He's the one that's saying, no, we have to make sure that we still follow the rules of engagement, that we still remember that these enemy combatants are people. The one that realizes sometimes you can have the best of intentions and it can lead to the worst result, which is the death of Miller. He's the one that really goes through the emotional journey in this movie.
Yeah, he does, because he has to shoot Steamboat Willie.
I don't even think he does it because he has to.
Morally, I think he does.
No, I think he was angry, and that was him succumbing to his negative emotions because he didn't shoot the rest of them.
That's true.
But yeah, so we follow him along, and you've probably seen him. He has usually different hair and a whole different body style now, which is really weird because that's why it took so long for it to click that it was, the dad from the Black Phone and a lot of other different things, usually playing like a rednecky character. So watching him in this movie was very, very odd.
Yeah.
It created a really weird dissonance in me that I couldn't reconcile for the entire movie. Lastly, we just have a handful of people that are pretty much just cameos, but it was just really fun to see. Captain Fred Hamill, played by Ted Danson. Always good to see him.
I said, you're going to see lots of people. And he kept saying, is that so-and-so? Yes, it is.
He was a good foil to the wrong Ryan because he took care of him when he thought that, when he got the news that his brothers were dead and that whole snafu.
Oh, goodness. But they're in grammar school.
Yeah.
Nathan Fillion.
So, and then we have Sergeant Hill, which is Paul Giamatti. He's probably my favorite person that wasn't a part of the main squad to be in this movie. He had a lot of really good quips.
He did.
Talking about his ankles, sitting down and accidentally exposing German high command in the area, knocks a pillar down and hits a wall.
The whole wall just crumples down. You're looking at it, you're like, really?
Even the Germans were like, what?
Okay.
That was really just odd and funny. I just enjoyed it. I enjoyed getting to see him in this role. I feel like he seemed to really fit the down-to-earth military jargon lifestyle.
Yeah, he really did. Yeah, I thought he did a great job. And he gave us a little bit of a breather.
And then we have the War Department Colonel, which is going to be Bryan Cranston.
Yeah.
Very briefly in this movie. Very early in his career-ish, I would say. Doesn't have a whole lot that he has going on, but it's just cool to see him.
Always.
And then
Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, Nathan Fillion, one of his first roles. Vaguely remembered he was in this, and then he showed up, and I was like, oh, that's right, because they have a podcast, and I've been listening to it, and they talk about it being one of his first roles. That whole scene was just heartbreaking and hilarious at the same time.
Yes.
He just got the news delivered that his brothers are dead, and so he's breaking down, and he's asked how they died. Tom Hanks says everything, all the different battles, and he's like, they're in grammar school. He really brought a level of emotion I wasn't expecting so early in his career. When he's like, oh, I was going to go take them fishing and everything. He was only there for 2 minutes, but I was really impressed with what he did.
I feel like he did better with the emotional weight of that, better than Matt Damon did.
That's actually exactly what I was thinking when we watched this movie. I preferred Nathan Fillion's reaction, thinking that all of his brothers were killed, versus Ryan's reaction where he was still kind of in shock and did that really weird story about the last time they were together.
Yeah.
With the girl.
It was ad-libbed.
It was ad-libbed?
Yeah, I think I read it was ad-libbed.
And we kept it, trying to come at it from like an angle of, well, this is what brothers do and stuff. And it was like, it's just such an odd thing to say.
Yeah. Then, of course, we have Steamboat Willie, which we've kind of talked about. He's the German soldier that they run into.
I think he was Hungarian. He wasn't German. I know that because I think that's why they were a little bit more lenient.
Oh, okay.
They essentially had him dig his own grave, which is terrifying because they had just lost their medic. They were feeling a lot of high emotions. He was the only survivor. So they had him dig in the graves. He was bonding with Upham, talking about America and bonding over their hobbies and things like that, their pottery, whatever. And then they're going to kill him. And Upham is the one that convinces them, no, just let him walk. They say he's just going to get put back into the war machine. And he's the one that takes a shot that kills John Miller. When Upham surrounds them, because he finally gets the courage to step up, he recognizes him and he says his name. And that's when it clicks for Upham. This is the guy that I let go. And he's the one that just killed my commanding officer. And he ends up killing him. And I didn't actually make that connection until he told me, and it made it 10 times worse. I liked his outrage when he was about to be killed. And he's like, I love America. And he's so sick. And I see, but he only knew the one line. So he kept repeating it.
He was like pie in the sky and,
Everything American he knew, bad mouthing Hitler to try to get them to change his mind. So I liked his outbursts, just trying to do anything to survive. That's what makes it just more tragic at the end, because done one good deed. And that one good deed came back and bit you in the ass. But those are all the characters. Like I said, lots to talk about with them. So the scenes. So we talked about the Normandy invasion. First 25 minutes, just carnage everywhere.
So some things I learned about that.
All your knowledge is nothing to me.
Oh, wow. Wow. I worked hard on this, okay? I want my moment in the sun. Some things that Spielberg did, he had them wear something in their ears. I couldn't figure out exactly what it was. But when the explosions happened, the looks of shock is authentic. They didn't know when, if, where. Also, when you hear all the bullets and stuff, they actually shot those guns. The real guns, not there. They used the real guns from the era to make the noise or the sound. He used some amputees that already had their amputation, and so they had the prosthetic limb. And that's what you see them carrying, or just some little things. And I'm sure the veterans of that war both hated and loved at the same time, because they loved it because that's really how it was, and then hated it because it might have triggered them, or it was both good and bad. From a person who's never been through a battle, I thought, and I've seen a lot of movies with battle, and I just thought that was so well done. It just looked amazing. I remember the first time I watched it, I was like, oh God, this is gross. Ew. So gross. So much blood. There's blood in the ocean. What is happening? Watching it again, I could appreciate the film craft, all the hard work that they put in. Like I said, we're watching these movies in different lenses now.
Just visually impressive. Everything that they had that was going on in that. Being dropped into it immediately as the way that you're introduced to this movie is craziness. You can't breathe. You don't know what's going on, just like they do. It's definitely a very mirrored experience, which I appreciate.
I did too. They definitely stepped up their game from Empire of the Sun and
really make you understand what something like D-Day was. Because, yeah, it was the beginning of us taking back Europe, but also isn't it like the most that we've lost? Throwing people into like a meat grinder, essentially. Yeah. And so I think they really conveyed that well with this scene.
They did. That's where we're introduced to a Ryan. I believe it was S. Ryan.
Yeah, we see the body.
Okay, they didn't save him. He's dead. Uh-oh. That's before you learn about the whole
angle of the brothers and everything. So
what was the scene that you liked or you resonated with you?
I mean, like I've said, the digging the grave was eerie. That scene really stressed me out. I'm a sucker for last words. So when John Miller said earn it, and I loved when they're in the cemetery and he's telling his wife, he's like, did I earn it? Did I live a good life? And just the breakdown that he has, I thought that was really spectacular. The only one that we didn't mention already that I think I liked was when they were playing with the dog tags to see if Ryan had been killed already. They're talking about it like it's a poker game. They're using them like chips. And these soldiers that had just gone through a battle are walking behind them, getting upset with them. And Giovanni Ribisi's character coming over and saying, guys, like, they just went through this battle. Can we not just treat this like it's a joke? And also just the story that they tell with those dog tags, like the one dog tag that had the bullet in it. I thought that was interesting because it shows a cynicism towards war. I would imagine if I was in war, I would be making dark jokes about it all the time.
Yeah, we're very sarcastic people, so I could imagine that.
I think that's also why their dialogue didn't feel out of place.
I feel ya.
Yeah, I'd be right there with you on that one.
Yeah. So another scene that stuck out to me was obviously Corporal Upham. He was frozen on the stairs. Watching him, I don't know if he dissociated or if he just, stood there real still so that nobody would shoot him. It just got to be too much, I guess. I don't remember what he saw prior to that.
I think he saw the tank show up, maybe?
Yeah, I guess so.
Battle scenes is always hard for me to place everything in a timeline.
And there was so many people, so yeah.
Yeah, so it's hard to say what happened right before that. But I remember he turned the corner, and I think it was that he saw the Panzer come over. So he realized, I'm not going to be able to get to the tower.
Did he know he had to go up there? Did he hear him? Or was he just hiding from the Panzer?
It's hard to say.
I know. Another thing that I just thought of was, remember the sticky bombs? The first guy from the other squad, I guess, held it too long, I guess, or it wasn't stable enough. Literally blew him up. I remember seeing that. I was like, whoa, that's intense. I guess that's how unstable they were. I mean, they were homemade, doing what you can with what you have. That poor guy. I still feel bad for him. The guy that got blown up.
I guess I'm just numb to it.
I guess. Maybe it was because of Grey's Anatomy. There's an episode, and the bomb guy comes in because somebody has an unexploded shell in their chest cavity. He comes in and he takes it from the main character, and he's walking real slow down the hallway. It's like homemade or something, and then it just explodes, and it exploded him. So maybe it just reminded me of that.
That's really dumb.
Don't ever go to that hospital, I'm telling you. The weirdest things happen there.
Wow. All right. So some themes, I would say the cost of a life. What does that really mean to you? We were trying to save one person.
Yeah.
In the grand scheme of things, does the 8 dead people at least justify saving the one person, or is it saving that one person everything?
I don't know. That's a tough one.
It's like the inverse of kill one person to save 100.
Like the trolley. That's exactly what this was.
Upham was up there sweating in the trolley, going like, what do I do?
I don't know what to do.
Somehow drifted and took everybody out.
Some survived. They must have jumped out. I don't know. I kind of attribute it to the starfish story. You at least saved that one. But of course, in the military, no soldier left behind, right? Or
That's what they're asking themselves the whole time is this worth it for one Private Ryan? And then the camaraderie, I think, is a big theme that they have between each other. We've seen it just through their dialogue, see it through every time one of them dies and how it impacts every single one of them.
yeah, definitely a trauma bond.
Yeah, trauma bonds. Camaraderie is a big one. Fallen heroes, like we talked about with John Miller. Everybody thought that he was the hero. He was the one that was going to save everybody, that he would do no wrong. And then we see him making decisions that get people killed. And we have to remind ourselves that even though he's the one that's leading us, that he's mortal. Take him off that pedestal.
Yeah, at least he took out that. Well, no, he didn't. It looked like he took out the tank. Remember, he was shooting at it with his pistol.
I think the futility of war, because you can do everything right one day and then it's just gone the next day. And you really feel it because you don't feel like we got to win in this one.
Not at all.
There's no happy ending. I mean, there is for Ryan. We lose just a lot of people. And so I think it's just, we took Normandy and then all of a sudden there's this bridge that if we lose, we're going to lose everything. So that's the futility of it. You just put so many people through the grinder in Normandy to take that beachhead. And now if you lose this bridge, you could lose everything. Being alone too. You're isolated. They're in that French countryside and they run into people, but at the end of the day, they don't know where they're going. They don't know what's going on around them. They have no communications, isolation. They have to make all decisions themselves. And I think that's another thing that they struggle with because before, yeah, your captain may have made a choice, but it was a choice they were told from above. Now this is everything that's on John Miller. And now that they have a face to the person making decisions that are getting people killed, that gets their ire.
You talked about earlier how Tom Hanks or Captain Miller was shaking, and he was shaking throughout the movie. Fun fact, we have what's called familiar tremors, so we kind of understand what he was going through, but obviously it was something they didn't talk about much in the 40s. They called it shell shock, which is actually PTSD. He was under a tremendous amount of stress, and I know we talked about, he came from this small town and he was a teacher and life was obviously a little more slower, chill, and then he comes and hey, you're in charge of these people. Okay, take this beach. Okay, a lot of people died. Okay, let's go. We got something else. It was just a nonstop. They never got a chance to breathe. They slept for an hour in that French place, right? It's just, I can't imagine operating that way and not having what you need. I don't know if they had enough food or enough water. I never saw them eat. I don't know. I can imagine taking that home and just, how do you go back to real life after that?
A lot of nightmares.
Yeah, because your life at home is not going to be nearly as chaotic as that. Imagine you're in fight or flight the whole time because you don't know what's coming around the next corner. So yeah, the shakiness, it's always nice to see because like I said, it wasn't really talked about. Only probably the last 10, 20 years, maybe.
As we started to understand that mental health is something that's important.
Right. I was glad to see it. I'm always glad to see something that has to do with mental health.
Yeah. And then, because they say leaders aren't supposed to show emotions. And you remember that scene where he pulled out the compass and his hands were shaking and you could just see that the group was losing faith in him because they would even know if he could shoot a gun, seeing how his group reacted to seeing his tremor and why he's been trying to hide it. Really just hits home that these people are human, and it gets us to a point where they start to have no faith in him before he finally opens up about his past and who he was and connects in a way that they've been joking that they wanted with their little pool.
What do you think he did before this? And then he asked Upham, what's the pool up to? Maybe we should raise it to 1,000. And then he's like, I don't know if we'll live that long. Okay, 500.
They didn't live that long.
They didn't, but that's okay. So the not showing fear which is basically you don't want your leader to show fear because then they don't have it together to lead you. So that reminds me of Courage Under Fire. Matt Damon was actually in it. Meg Ryan, she was in charge of the unit. Their helicopter crashes and she has to lead these guys and things happen and things shouldn't have happened. And one thing that they all focused on when they were talking to Denzel, because he's in it too, oh, she was crying, she couldn't handle it, and, all of that. But it turns out, she's like, it's tension because you got to get rid of it somehow. All that to say, when Miller was on the hill and he finally was able to cry in solitude, I guess, which you don't get a lot of, obviously, in war. So yeah, I kind of connected that, making sure that your leaders look like they can handle it. Because if your leaders lose it, who's going to lead? They're not allowed to fall apart, which I don't think is fair.
Yeah, it's not true today.
You don't think so?
Not with the concept of empathy. We understand they're human now. I mean, there's still older generations that think that leaders should be machines. People my age and younger are a little bit more forgiving that somebody has emotions, and we understand that, and is actually a good way for you to be able to bond with each other. And you can still respect somebody and you can still look up to them and still find out that they're hurting, and it's fine.
Yeah, you're right. It's the older generation.
Because if you stifle that, then there's going to be an emotional reaction, which is usually going to be something that's negative, either on you, yourself, or towards others.
That's true. Attention, officers and NCOs. Is your unit's paperwork in a tangle? Have you been tasked with finding a needle in a haystack? How about an order to find a private named Ryan in a field of 1,000 paratroopers? Don't send your men on a wild goose chase. Enroll today in the Ryan Locator Correspondence Course. This course will teach you the 3 S's of preservation. Sort through the records, spot the sole survivor, and ship him home before the panzers roll in. Whether he's a James from Minnesota or a James from Iowa, our proven methods ensure you find the right boy the first time. Why lose a squad when you can use a stamp? The Ryan Locator Correspondence Course, because some family trees have given enough. Available at all SHAFE-approved correspondence school kiosks. Preserving the home front, one soldier at a time.
Yeah, we've talked about the silver screen. It is time to go behind the scenes with The Shark Is Not Working. So, Mom, I know you did a lot of the research behind all of this. Tell us about the origin story.
Oh, yes. Screenwriter named Robert Rodat was inspired by a monument he saw in Keene, New Hampshire. It was listing multiple brothers killed in action. He was looking at this monument and he noticed, hey, there's a name. Oh, hey, that's the same name. He was inspired by that, as well as reading this book, D-Day, June 6, 1944, The Climactic Battle of World War II by Stephen Ambrose, who would later be a historical consult on the film. So he used these 2 sources to make a screenplay for this movie. Producer Mark Gordon commissioned him to write the screenplay. Gordon shared the idea with Paramount Pictures, which expressed great interest. Michael Bay was approached to direct, but he didn't know how to approach the material. It's kind of like Schindler's List. You can't go full bore at it. You gotta, I don't know. There's a different way to handle this kind of material.
Well, this was post Bad Boys. He definitely did not have the experience to be able to pull off an epic movie like this. Because, yeah, this was before Armageddon, Transformers, and everything like that. Definitely would have just been a lot of explosions in Normandy, and that probably would have been his one contribution.
I don't think we would have gotten the human element.
Oh, no. We never do in a Michael Bay film.
So an agent named Karen Sage arranged for the script to be read by Tom Hanks and Steven Spielberg. Tom Hanks found this story fascinating, and he was excited to work with his friend, because we know that they were friends. They almost worked together on Big, but Spielberg withdrew because we've mentioned before his sister had written the screenplay and wanted her to shine. Spielberg was intrigued by the moral question presented by the script, which is funny because you brought this up earlier. Should 8 soldiers be sent to save 1? So then he thought back to the Talmudic quote from Schindler's List, "He who saves 1 life saves the whole world entire." So it kind of connected the movies for him, I think.
Yes, and probably it works as a bridge.
So he also wanted to make the film to honor his father, Arnold, who was a World War II veteran. He was a radio operator.
Yeah, it sounds like he was upset. He didn't make it explicitly about what Arnold did in World War II.
That's okay.
He said, no, it's for everybody in your generation, not
just you.
Not just you. Yes, this is for you, but not just you.
Paramount and DreamWorks produced the film. with Amblin Entertainment and then the Mutual Film Company. DreamWorks handled the casting in the United States, and Paramount handled the casting overseas. So that's the origin story of Saving Private Ryan.
Not bad, not bad. Not as sexy as we usually get with the origin stories.
No, not really.
Next up, we have our casting and cameos. So before Tom Hanks was cast as John Miller, Harrison Ford, Mel Gibson, and Pete Postlethwaite were considered for the role of Captain Miller. Probably familiar names because these names seem to come up a lot in the 90s for possible casting. Pete Postlethwaite, I don't think he would have had the physicality for that.
No.
Harrison and Mel, they probably would have been okay at it.
Right, other than Tom Hanks because he embodied the role, so.
Edward Norton was reportedly a top choice for Private Ryan, but he turned it down in favor of American History X, which is a very intense movie, and I think what launched his career.
I think so.
I don't know what he did before that, but I know American History X is one of the biggest ones that people talk about in his filmography. So Spielberg wanted to cast ordinary American faces, not big stars. Funny because we look at these people and now we're like, oh, we know that person.
Yeah.
Private Rabin, who was the Brooklyn guy that we were talking about, he was played by Edward Burns, an independent writer and director of the Brothers McMullen. Private Carpazzo, as we had said, was played by Vin Diesel, cast after starring in an independent feature film called Strays, which he wrote and directed, which I think is really interesting. So this is a year before he does The Iron Giant, which I think people my age is what really launched Vin Diesel's career, because we all remember when he said Superman as he fought the bomb. Private Jackson was played by Barry Pepper, as I said, in the Maze Runner series is what a lot of people would know him from. Kinda, he's there, but he's not in your face about it. Private Mellish was played by Adam Goldberg. Tier 4 Medic Wade was played by Giovanni Ribisi, all at the beginning of their acting careers. He was also in Friends.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, as Phoebe's brother. So that's the only 90s thing I really know him from. Billy Bob Thornton actually turned down the role of Sergeant Horvath because he is deeply phobic about water. Tom Sizemore was cast as a sergeant, but he did have to do a daily drug test because he was struggling with addiction at the time. And since he wasn't replaced, obviously he stayed clean during the whole shoot. For Private James Francis Ryan, Neil Patrick Harris was considered, and Edward Norton, as we talked about. Robert Williams is actually the reason why Matt Damon got the role, was because he had Spielberg visit him on the set of Good Will Hunting. We've established they're good friends with each other. Steven thought that he had the look of a great American every boy, which I think is true.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's got that kind of that farm boy look. And he was pretty unknown at the time. Obviously, his career blew up, so they kind of got to capitalize on the fact that he was in there. I wonder if they went and did reshoots to give him more screen time after Good Will Hunting blew up.
I don't know.
Because they'll do that sometimes. They'll go in and punch it up if they have like a relatively unknown that gets discovered. He was still in there for like the past hour. And the film features early performances from Nathan Fillion, as we talked about, The Wrong Ryan, and Andrew Scott, who you probably know from things like Fleabag, Spectre, and Sherlock.
Moriarty.
Yes, and most recently in Wake Up Dead Man. And then Dale Dye was a technical advisor and a Marine veteran and portrayed one of the war colonels.
Yeah, he was also in charge of the boot camp.
The war camp that they do? Yeah? Okay, cool.
He kind of had the Marine haircut and the white mustache. You'd know him if you saw him.
All right, it is with the writing facts.
All right. I have a theory. The more they rewrite the script, the better the movie.
Usually doesn't come true, but
Schindler's had 9 rewrites.
I mean, it's possible in certain situations.
Okay.
If you have the right intentions.
So this had 11 rewrites. It's something I pay attention to now. After Spielberg began the project, he drew inspiration from Robert Capa's photo. So this was a real-life person that took photos of D-Day. He took like 300 of them, but there was like a lab accident, ruined all of them except for 8. Spielberg also dissected Rodette's script with help from Tom Hanks and Frank Darabont. Uncredited, Frank Darabont is known for The Walking Dead and directing Stephen King's films The Green Mile, Shawshank Redemption, and The Mist.
And Green Mile's Tom Hanks.
Yes, it is. So another uncredited writer to revise the script was Scott Frank, and he's known for Logan.
Can't trust a man with 2 first names.
I don't know. Also, Spielberg watched World War II documentaries and listened to survivors' testimonies, including his friend Samuel Fuller, whom he met in 1941, the movie. Samuel had made a film about Omaha Beach called The Big Red One in 1980. One thing that he shared that Spielberg took was that he felt the fear and then the noise.
We talked about the sound design, and you mentioned them not knowing about the explosions and everything. I bet that was directly linked to that conversation.
Yeah.
All right, so next we have our production facts. Spielberg's original concept was to make it more of they're searching for Ryan to be a public relations effort by the War Department. It's public relations is showing, hey, we care about the family and the next generation, so we're going to make sure that we save 1 out of 4. I still think that it has those seeds in it, those elements to it, but he did change his mind a little bit after listening to the World War II veteran testimonials.
Yeah.
But you can definitely see from the conceits that it was mainly a public relations. We have to make sure that we are showing that we are not just dooming generations.
Well, there was an actual policy that they were supposed to follow. So the sole survivor policy.
I mean, even in 300, which I rewatched recently, the only people that could come were people who were not the first sons that would be taking over the family.
So you're good and Brandon is on his
Brandon's
way.
off to war.
Sorry, buddy.
It's not us, it's the system.
So we talked about the black and white filming, how he always wanted to do that, and he finally did that with Schindler's List. He considered doing that for this film, and I'm really glad he didn't, because then that wouldn't make Schindler's List so special. He made it look like it was colored World War II combat footage, because there's a movie called The Battle of Midway.
And by that, I'm assuming you mean that it was black and white footage that got colored afterwards.
They applied color. We talked about this while we were watching it, how it looked kind of grainy, because they did it with the combat cameramen, the handhelds, and doing it on 16 millimeter, making it kind of look blurry, and they had the desaturated images like they did in Schindler's List. They removed the protective lens coatings to achieve a flatter image and mismatched lenses. So you could see all of that, and to me, that provided an authentic experience. It looked like something you might have watched in the theater, like our opening. I'm really glad they did it that way. If they had done it in 4K, which they didn't have then, but it wouldn't have hit the same. I'm a sucker for details, so I always appreciate it when they do things like that. They used an image shaker when there was explosions and things. I was watching for this. I don't know if you noticed, but blood stained the camera.
Deadpool style.
Yeah, they were like, what if blood gets on the camera? He's like, I don't care. Do it. So, yep. They made this on the beach of Ireland because obviously Normandy Beach has been built up and it's not available to do.
I feel like it would have been hard to get permission for that.
So yeah, and while they were filming, I guess those things, the Czech hedgehogs, I think those are those giant X's.
The things that block the boats.
Yeah, but they came in on low tide, so it didn't work. They did have a storm that destroyed several props, but they rebuilt everything. They stayed on schedule. You want to talk about the boot camp?
Yeah, so Steven Spielberg had the main cast go through a grueling 6-day boot camp led by Dale Dye, as we mentioned, to immerse them into the action and the reality of being World War II soldiers. We've talked about Empire of the Sun. They did the war camp for that movie, and that's what led to Ben Stiller creating Tropic Thunder. So just to give you an idea of what these war camps actually have, everybody that was involved had to do 5-mile runs with full gear, 3 hours of sleep, terrible conditions. When the cast wanted to quit due to exhaustion, Tom Hanks convinced them to stay, earning their respect and helping them to understand the character motivations, because they literally just went through what their characters must have went through to form the squad that they become. Spielberg intentionally excluded Matt Damon from the training to make the other actors pissed at him, which not surprising because resentment. We get those method actors that come in and then they have certain attitudes and that upsets people because they're just supposed to be acting. This is just kind of like a director's method of doing that.
I mean, you could see it came out, especially with Ryben. He was very vocal about how he felt about
And he wanted to leave him.
Yeah, he did.
So I would say that was a good psychological tactic. Yeah, because horror movies do that a lot. People that are playing the main bad guy, the slasher, Jason, Michael, whatever, usually keep away from the main cast so that way when they do appear, it's scarier. Same principle. Steven Spielberg did a grueling pace of up to 50 shots per day to keep the actors off balance. It was shot almost entirely in chronological order. So yeah, they must have had a lot of resentment by then.
Oh, yeah.
Which was mentally demoralizing for the crew as the cast grew smaller when characters were killed off. Yeah, you can't walk with us anymore.
No.
Yeah, get out of here.
Yeah.
They used accurate boots from World War II using the last batch of period accurate dye, authentic boats and weapons, handheld cameras to mimic a soldier's perspective with the debris like sand and blood hitting the lens, like you mentioned. Thousands of gallons of fake blood turned the shoreline red. Interestingly, Spielberg chose not to storyboard the film. He positioned the camera spontaneously to react to the action and relied a lot on Dale Dye to ensure the combat choreography and explosion sizes remain historically grounded. The thing is good. Don't want too big a boom. So several key scenes were developed on the day of filming, including Mellish's brutal hand-to-hand combat death, which is suggested by Dale Dye. As we said, that was probably in that entire bridge scene, other than the death of the main character, that's what sticks with you the most. That slow death of being stabbed while he's trying to do everything desperately to save himself. And Brian's ad-lib monologue about his brothers that we already mentioned we didn't like. Probably the only thing in this movie I didn't like.
Oh, yeah. We're supposed to connect with them. And I just didn't.
This one's all about the journey. The bookend scenes with the elderly Ryan were filmed at the Normandy American Cemetery and Memorial in France. Okay, I just assumed it was an American cemetery.
Yeah, and then I read that. I was like, that's really cool.
That's really, yeah, I like that, paying homage. I didn't know that they had an American cemetery for Normandy in France.
That's good.
Yeah. To provide a visual relief from the muted, gritty tones of the war scenes, cinematographer Janusz Kaminski used intentionally bright, colorful lighting for the scenes set in America. Also, probably to simulate that Americana feel.
Yeah.
Like Steamboat Willie was talking about, apple pies, baseball, fireworks. You have this almost like Wizard of Oz, where it's got the garish colors, kind of like that Americana feel. And so I think that's what they were trying to go for in this. And Spielberg was worried that even though his movie had to be ugly, the violent content would be seen as exploitative and get him an NC-17 rating from the MPAA, restricting it to audiences over 17 years of age, which would be pretty wild because that's a step past R.
Yeah, they did get it down to R.
Yeah. Tell us about our main man, John Williams.
John Williams. I don't know if you noticed. I think I brought it up, but the opening siege on Omaha Beach had no music.
I mean, I had the music of explosions.
Well, yeah.
And wails of death.
Yeah, okay, you're right. But I meant like a instrumental anything. That's just all you heard. There was nothing. They wanted to make this movie as immersive as possible.
There was no doom, doom,
Exactly.
doom, doom, doom.
Yeah. There was no nothing like that.
Although for the boats,
Yeah, that could have worked. You're right. He worked again with the Boston Symphony Orchestra. They did Hymn to the Fallen was intended as a memorial and plays only during the credits, allowing the audience a chance to breathe and remember. That movie was hard work.
Oh, right. Miscellaneous facts. So the Bixby brothers were all lost during the American Civil War. The resulting letter by Abraham Lincoln is quoted in the film multiple times.
Yeah.
The Normandy cemetery scene was based on Spielberg's own experiences visiting the area as a youth. He witnessed a family accompanying a man who fell to his knees and began to cry at a grave marker. We talked about this. We like the scene.
Yeah.
But it was also just trying to do some like ad-libbing of what they probably were saying.
Oh, yeah.
We're just like, oh my God, Grandpa, why do we have to come here every year? Yeah. Like, I need to go and what were they doing in the 90s? I got to go rollerblading with my friends.
I got to check my pager.
The boy, is going to be upset if I don't call him tonight.
That's right.
On my landline.
On your landline. Yep. With your hamburger phone.
There's this new thing called AOL coming out. I'm really interested. I got to return my video to Blockbuster
before I get a late fee.
Come on, Grandpa.
Well, it feels better now that we know it was actually in France and not.
Because we were talking about how often would he be first time that he visited, and based off of his reaction, I think it might have been.
Yeah, I think so too.
Because he had a very extreme reaction. Like this was his first experience of seeing Miller's tomb. So I think so. So I'm glad that we found that out because it does give that context that makes me, because I really liked the end, but it was just odd that he looked at his wife and said, was I a good man and everything? If this was not your first time seeing it, why would you have that kind of reaction?
Right.
But now that I know it's in France and it probably was hard for him to get back, I'm going to assume it's his first time. It was a low profile affair for the premiere, not party or many celebrities. They just wanted to make sure they were being an appropriate venue for a movie like with this source material. Many World War II veterans described the opening of Saving Private Ryan as depicting the most realistic representation of combat. Another veteran interviewed by The Time said, I remember when I walked out in the lobby of the movie house, not a single person coming out of that showing said one word. Everyone was stunned. It just brought back so many memories. And yeah, that they weren't able to finish the movie because it was so triggering.
Yeah.
Which is like a badge of honor, and also it sucks. Like you rocked it, but also at the same time.
You rocked it too well?
Yeah, you did it too well.
But it also started opening up lines of communication as far as talking about it, because I don't think they talked a lot about it when they got back.
I would assume not.
Because nobody knows what they went through.
And like you said about the communication piece, the VA created a dedicated phone line for viewers affected by the film, and more veterans visited counselors for PTSD, which I think is fantastic.
Definitely.
Yeah, we wanted them to get as much care as we can.
So look how long they suffered.
Unfortunately, for a lot of them, the tail end of their life, and they're just now starting to have these conversations.
Yeah. That's a long time.
That's why it's important to do better for the next generation.
Yes.
But that is all of the facts that we have about this movie. Lots to unpack about this movie. I appreciate you doing all the research on it. I think you did a great job. We are going to move on now. So next up, we have our Sandcastles in the Sand segment, which is where we talk briefly about the money, milestones, awards, reviews, what have you, all of the reactions to the movie. So in my book, Spielberg said he didn't think this movie was going to be successful financially. He really didn't care about that. He just wanted to make sure that he made the film and was able to give it to the people.
I read conflicting accounts. I know that they didn't take a paycheck from the film or salary. I read that they got 17.5% of the back end. I don't know if that's true. That's just, I read that in one place, so I'm not sure. I couldn't corroborate it, so.
It did cost $70 million to make, so almost as much as The Lost World, believe it or not. So that's going to be a second, about the same as Hook, and it made $482 million, so almost 7 times its budget. It was very successful, even though he didn't really care if it was or not.
Same thing with Schindler's List, right?
Yes, yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's what a lot of people that put out these movies, like, I'm pretty sure that's got to be how Scorsese feels.
Yeah.
He just wants to put out his art there.
exactly.
And if money comes, it's like Wes Anderson. When's the last time Wes Anderson's movies made money?
I don't know.
And yet all these people want to be involved with it. They keep coming out just because people like the art that he's putting out. So
That's true.
I think it's important not to always get bogged down in the box office, but pleasant surprise.
Yeah.
And it was number 2 box office wise for the entire year.
Nice.
Very exciting. As the domestic box office for July of 1998, number 1, we have Armageddon, which is actually Michael Bay.
Michael Bay,
Very different movie, I would say.
back in his lane.
Back in his lane, yes.
Yeah.
Making Aerosmith relevant again. I don't know Aerosmith's eras, but that's
probably
I was gonna say the song from Armageddon
Yeah.
is what I think made a lot of people back into
Right, Aerosmith.
Aerosmith.
Hey, resurgence.
It's good.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, so it grossed 155 million in July, and total gross was 201 million. And then Lethal Weapon 4. Wow, that was the end of the Lethal Weapon franchise. Starring Danny Glover, as we know as Mr. from Color Purple, was number 2. Dr. Dolittle, remember that movie a lot as a kid. Then Saving Private Ryan at number 4 with 56 million gross and total gross of 216. Next is The Mask of Zorro.
What you just watched.
Yes, I did watch. Yeah, I just recently watched that one. Very fun adventure movie. Mulan is number 6.
Yeah.
Awesome movie. Kicks a lot of ass. Should do Saving Private Mulan. That's what we should do. There's Something About Mary, which is Ben Stiller, Small Soldiers, 6 Days, 7 Nights, and Out of Sight. I'm not familiar with the last 2.
J-Lo is in Out of Sight, and George Clooney. 6 Days, 7 Nights is Harrison and Anne Heche.
Okay.
That's a fun movie.
But yeah, so that's what that domestic box office looked like. We're going to go hop on over to the awards. This is before the big drought, everybody. It was nominated 11 times for Academy Awards: Best Picture, Best Actor, Original Screenplay, Music, Art Direction, and Makeup. It actually won Best Director. So second Best Director win, Best Sound Effects Editing, Best Cinematography, and Best Film Editing. So a lot of technical awards, which I think makes a lot of sense based off of what we've seen. Pretty great that Tom Hanks got nominated for Best Actor.
Yes.
Mom, why don't you go ahead and tell us about the critic reviews?
Okay, so I always look for Roger Ebert because I like stability in my life. He gave it 4 stars. Quote, Saving Private Ryan is a powerful experience. I am sure a lot of people will weep during it. Spielberg knows how to make audiences weep better than any director since Chaplin and City Lights. I'm going to guess that's a silent movie. But weeping is an incomplete response, letting the audience off the hook. This film embodies ideas. After the immediate experience begins to fade, the implications remain and grow. And that's what I like about these types of movies. You don't just cry and then move on with
You're
your
not
life.
like, yeah, America, and,
Yeah.
then you move on with your day.
No.
Like, what is man?
Thank you, Steven Spielberg. James Berardinelli gave it 4 stars. Now these are 4 out of 4. In Saving Private Ryan, there are no human villains, and the enemy isn't so much the Germans as it is the implacable, destructive specter of war. The film's central question, when is one life more important than another, is really never answered for those who are willing to brave the movie's shocking and unforgettable images. Saving Private Ryan offers a singular motion picture experience. I will be surprised if another film tops it for the best of 1998. So that was pretty good. So both good ones. So then Rotten Tomatoes, we got 94% on the tomato meter and 95% on the popcorn meter.
Yeah, take that, critics.
Yeah.
We're outweighing you. Look at you with your wimpy little 94. All right, so for my Letterboxd review, I did give this movie a 5 stars. I was surprised that Spielberg gave me another movie that I would consider a masterpiece, but I just really don't have any complaints about it. The only complaint I have is super weak is
Private Ryan,
and he's not a factor of this movie really for me anyway, so
No.
it's not going to change anything for me whether he's in it or not.
Yeah.
He's just the weakest part. It's fine. Yeah, so I gave it a 5-star review. My review is it smells like Upham in here. What's Upham? Not much, man. What's up with you? If you like comedic gold like that, then go ahead and check out my Letterboxd. It's Birch94, BURCH.
Not like the tree.
But now we're going to go ahead and do our personal rankings for these movies. So, Mom, why don't you go ahead and hit us with your personal ones?
All right. So for number 1, got The Last Crusade. Number 2 was Schindler's List. Number 3, Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark. Number 4, Jaws. Number 5, Saving Private Ryan. Number 6, Jurassic Park. Number 7, E.T. 8, The Color Purple. 9, Duel. 10, Temple of Doom. 11, Always. Close Encounters of the Third Kind was 12. 13, The Sugarland Express. 14, The Lost World Jurassic Park. 15, Amistad. 16, Hook. 17, Empire of the Sun. 18, 1941. And A Partridge in a Pear Tree. So yeah, I'd put it at number 5.
Okay. I actually think I'm probably going to do the same. So number 1 is Jurassic Park. Number 2 is Jaws. Number 3 is Schindler's List. Number 4, even though it's not as high on stars, I'm still going to put Last Crusade at 4. And then I'm going to do Saving Private Ryan at 5. Then Raiders, E.T., The Color Purple, Duel, Temple of Doom, The Lost World, Close Encounters, The Sugarland Express, Hook, Amistad, Always, Empire of the Sun, and 1941.
Wow, we've done 18 movies?
Yeah.
We're over halfway.
Make sure to go out and give us a review. If you give us a 5-star review on your podcast player of choice, we'll read it on the air. Also, please make sure that you help us with our engagement. Tell your friends. Continue listening. We love to have you here. If you're on YouTube, give us a like, comment, subscribe. Pretty much anything helps. So we really appreciate it. So our next episode will be AI, Artificial Intelligence, with Haley Joel Osment.
Which I've never seen.
I've never seen it. I haven't heard the best of things for it, so we'll see what we get into with it. I know Kubrick was involved in some capacity, so we'll see what that looks like.
Didn't he pass away?
Yeah, he either passed away during filming and Spielberg finished it, or Spielberg was given the project by him.
Okay.
Some sort of story is there with Stanley Kubrick.
Okay.
But we'll obviously tell you more as we do our own research on it. But make sure you go out and check out that movie so that way you know what we're talking about. Until then, I'm going to go ahead and give you our quote as I jaunt out the door. Through amazing stories and unforgettable characters, we are introduced to those incredible worlds we only dare imagine, and in the process, we discover ourselves. This is Tyler signing off.
And this is Crystal. Don't forget to notice the purple.